Hello there everyone, nubkeks here, welcome back to Nub Raids, and in today's video I want to ask the question of where have all the guaranteed summons gone? We haven't had one in ages. Well, let's break it down, and let's also look at fusions, login legendaries, 2x events, everything that you need to know for what we know with almost a certainty is going to be coming up over the next couple of months, coming up to the end of the year, and then also like some speculation on what might be coming, what looks likely, so you can really plan out what you're going to be doing with your shards, what you need to save for, and what you can kind of risk pulling if you want to. So we're going to be breaking that down today. Before we dive in, I did want to just say thank you to everyone. You might notice I'm just out of the shower, which is why I look a little bit different today. I mean, probably pretty much the same. You might not even notice, but yeah, just out of the shower. And I just thought, hey, it's a nice thing, right? Isn't it, to be able to jump out of the shower and straight to work? That is pretty cool. We're closing in on 20,000 subs as well on the channel, which is insane. I can't really, I barely ever take a moment to stop and to just, say thank you. So thank you. I do appreciate it. Right, let's dive in. Let me show you what I've put together for you here today. So the blindingly white spreadsheet, of course, would it be any other way? And the first thing I want to look at, actually, I think is quite intriguing. And by the way, we just got news today from the content creator chat that and I think it's in the announcements as well on Discord, but the Ultimate Death Knight, the chase for that is supposed to be going until the 27th of October. So there's still like over a week left on that. Now that is fine if you are currently on it, but for a new account, today is the last day. Let me just double check that. Today though should be the last day. Yep, if you start playing after the 18th of October, which is today, that you will not qualify for the Ultimate Death Knight hunt. If you're already on the Ultimate Death Knight hunt, you have until the 27th of October to do it. So warning, watch out for that. If you're on doing new accounts, if you're doing referral accounts, if your friend is thinking about starting playing, whatever, yeah, just watch out for that, because that could definitely get you. But I thought, hey, let's look at the login legendaries, all the chases that we've had, and what sort of patterns can we see. And I do have one possible prediction that is very much a prediction, but it's something to look at, right, to keep in mind. The first one we had was from July until October. It was a long one. That was Ninja, so that was a big promo. And again, I do expect that there are legal things around both Ninja and simple Alexander the Sharpshooter in game that would restrict them, re-adding them to the game or doing further promos with them. That's why I do think in a big way Chronam, the login reward, is very similar, or the referral reward is very similar to Ninja. And I think it's sort of Plarium's way of going, okay, you can't get Ninja anymore, there's legal restrictions, but here's a champion you can get through a crazy grind that is very similar. Anyway, Ninja was there. That was last year, July until October. Then there was a month off November, and then into December. On the 1st of December through until the 28th of January, we had the simple chase for Alexander the Sharpshooter. And I do think that this is something that makes a lot of sense. The most important month of the year, December, this period here, November, December, is so jam-packed with things like Black Friday, obviously the whole Christmas season, holiday season. Getting something in there makes sense. Now we come into 2022 and we had a really big gap here, and then they came in and we've had two back-to-back, and I'm predicting another one here. We had Deliana, and then very closely followed by Ultimate Death Knight. You can see it actually ended on the 28th of July, the end of July. Ultimate DK started at the end of August, so there was basically a month's downtime between them, right? About 4 weeks where we didn't have anything on. But both of these champions, the sort of the new thing about them is that neither one are actual related to real people. It's not a cross promotion with a real person in real life and using that as like an advertisement for the game. These were just in-game champions, just made for specifically for the game, which is why I think that they managed to do it as like this much more sort of concise. It's a neater layout. There's not gaps. There's probably a lot less rigmarole involved, right? But we see Deliano was from May until July, then Death Knight from August until the end of October. I think it's pretty likely, and I think it does make sense that we might see another one, and the standard seems to be this now, sort of 2 month period. You can see that sort of clips through 3, but up for 2 months. I do think that one then, starting, if Ultimate Death Knight ends the end of October, I think a new login legendary at the end of November or the start of December and then carrying over into January makes a whole lot of sense. It would mirror as well what they did last year with the start of December. And again, I just think it makes sense for anyone that picks up the game, over the Christmas period, the holiday period, that they're logging in, they're getting their legendary, and it's a reason to keep logging into the game to build up that habit. And especially when you've got all of the packs, all of the hype around Christmas, there's probably going to be great shard events and all of that. I think it makes sense. So that's my prediction. I do think it's quite likely. It is a prediction. Question mark, question mark, question mark. It's not guaranteed at all. But yeah, and then my expectation is maybe at the end of February, we might see something else. But yeah, we'll see. Will they stick with this pattern? We'll see. We'll find out. But there you go. That is one prediction. And we come to the fusions. So what I've done, I've mapped out the fusions for 2021 and going into 2022. So I guess the interesting thing here we can see, if we look towards, it's pretty straightforward for the first part of the year. In 2021, in September, there's actually two. We had Rorik right at the start, a legendary fusion, and then Sigmund at the very, very end of September, which then carried over to Vlad, the Halloween fusion, at the end of October. Then the interesting thing, there was actually a shorter fusion, the Epic fusion in November, which led in then to a mid-December Christmas fusion. So then that brings us to the question of what they're going to do. What are they going to do here? It's really weird. So this time, instead of the end of September having one, we had Moranic start very much at the start of October, the 4th of October. I do think it's very likely then that on the 25th, so that's like about 1 week from now, literally exactly 1 week from now, so on a Tuesday, they like to start fusions on Tuesdays. I think it's very likely we see the Halloween fusion kicking off then, or maybe at the end of that week. But I do think that next week, and we'll probably hear info about it this week if it is going to happen, I think it's fairly likely that we would see a Halloween fusion next week. Almost guaranteed. Now, the interesting question to me then is what they would do for November and December. That is pretty intriguing, isn't it? So I do think that around about the 15th of December, around about there, makes sense. It mirrors what they did last year with Tutora. So I do think that that's pretty likely. They do want a fusion over Christmas, but they want to start it, I do think, a bit before Christmas. Again, build up that hype, have the news. Us YouTubers have us cranking out those videos before Christmas, building up the hype, the interest, getting people in before, you're busy going around visiting everyone and all of that. So I think around the 15th makes sense. Then it comes the question of what do they squeeze into November? What do you squeeze in there? They could do, I've put it as a weird color because I don't know. They could do another legendary fusion and have it very jam-packed. So definitely be careful of that. Or they might do another epic. And the weird thing is we actually had an epic back in August. I wonder if Negorio is maybe a bit of a reaction to everyone skipping Lunatharil as well. That's also possible. But I don't know. It would certainly make sense. In terms of the timing, last year, they seemed to think that an epic in November made sense. We'll see what they do this year. I think it could go either way. But let me know what you think and what you expect. Something that's interesting about this then, in terms of the fusions and what you need to prep in terms of shards, that's a big question. So for the 2x events, this is almost guaranteed. There is a possibility, I think, especially around Christmas. So let me actually put this off to the side. I'd say this stuff isn't guaranteed. It is very possible that we have the weekend of the 23rd, 24th, 25th. Yeah. It's possible that they could even extend that weekend. They could do weird stuff. They could have like 2 days of Ancients, 2 days of Voids, 2 days of Sacred 2x over, the actual Christmas weekend. Who knows what they would do? So that's a big question mark right there. But definitely the October, November, and the 9th of December, that stuff is pretty damn likely to stay the same and not to change. It's not 100%, but it's like 98%, let's say. So we had the 14th of October, we had 2x Ancients. Next up is the 28th. That's 2x Sacreds. I think there's a very good chance that that is going to be within the Halloween fusion. In fact, it's likely to be basically the big event that kicks off the Halloween fusion. So that does make the Halloween fusion, in my opinion, very difficult. Because Summon Rush really taxes your Sacred Shards. Yeah, and then you also need Sacred Shards for the Champion Chase. So be really careful about this one. Moranix was not a fragment as well. So if you did Moranix, you're not going to have her summonable. You need to summon her now before it ends. Make sure to do it before it ends. So yeah, I think this is going to be a pretty difficult fusion. I always think these are the most difficult when it's 2x Sacred Shards. Within the fusion, that's the hardest possible layout, in my opinion. I think that Ancients is the easiest. 2x Ancients in a fusion makes it easier. 2x Sacreds makes it difficult. It's sort of my thought on that one. So yeah, just watch out for that. The 11th, this 2x Voids is likely to be outside of anything that should be after the Halloween fusion and before whatever happens in November happens. So Voids are relatively safe. So that's something you could consider. Saving Voids for Christmas is going to be important, or you could potentially spend some Voids to help complete whatever the Halloween thing is, if it's worth completing for you. And then the 25th, so Ancients again. Next time we see Ancients, I think that is very likely to be part of the November fusion. So 2x Ancients, I think whatever the November thing is, decent chance it's just an epic fusion as well. But I think that is going to require Ancient Shards. So bear that in mind if you're thinking about summoning over the next couple of days, where we do have this bonus thing in game. Yeah, it's up for 2 days. Just bear that in mind. If you waste your Ancients now, will you have them back in a month's time? In time for November, right? Will you be able to do that or not? So that's a question that you can ask yourself. And yeah, then I said, the 9th, this sacred is likely to be outside of anything, not important. Then the 23rd, again, this is the question mark. It's actual Christmas. They could do anything, really. I would definitely expect to see some Void event there. As you guys know, for the guaranteed, I am predicting a Void guaranteed at Christmas weekend as well. So I think that's quite likely. So yeah, there you go. That's how that is looking, and we'll see how things go into January. Then for the guaranteed, which I'm sure you're interested in as well, being the title, I suppose, of this video, you can see that in 2021 it started, and it was fairly sparse in 2021, right? For Sacreds, there was Helior, a legendary in June, and then we didn't have anything in Sacreds until Rector, who's an epic, in December. One thing to note, if we look at the end of the year, even last year, right? Last year, we did have Madame, sort of a Halloween-themed one towards the end of October. They might do something like that again. It's possible. A Halloween-themed epic for the end of the year. Maybe something like, who'd be a good option, in my opinion, because I don't have him, throwing this out there, and he's really good. Miscreated Monster. He was added to the game for Halloween at the same time Madame was. He could be a good one to throw in there. I would like to see him for pretty cheap. They did a guaranteed from Ancients for 40 before, and that was Geomancer, the best epic in the game. You could throw in like 30 Ancient Shards for Miscreated Monster. It's not an unreasonable deal, I think, for the end of October. Maybe something like that. It's possible. November last year, they actually had 2 guaranteed legendaries from Ancients, basically almost within 2 weeks of each other, albeit at a discount. So that is quite intriguing. Then we had another one in December just after that. And we had one shard event of each type coming in then, the 21st, 28th, and 31st, right? So really crammed into the end there. In 2022, you can see where we are. We are in October. We haven't had any guaranteed events since the 2nd of September. That's a long time ago. And I guess because that was a weekend right at the start of September, it kind of felt a bit Augusty. It felt a little bit August. We like to have hard facts and hard science here in the Nubraids channel. Felt a bit Augusty. But yeah, it's been a long time since we've seen one. Now, I don't think, if you look at 2022 overall as a pattern, it's not completely crazy. Like, we did have 3 from Ancients back to back to back in May, June, July. But we've had a gap in April. We had a gap in August. Having a gap between these is not unprecedented by any means. Or like Pinthroy, Theresk was a terrible one. It was December for Legendary and then all the way until March. So I think actually not seeing a guaranteed from Ancients in October is not unreasonable. That being said, I think that if they were to do one, I think next week would be the perfect time, wouldn't it? Because we've just had 2x Ancients as part of Moranics. Right now, we've got the extra Legendary from Ancients. I think if I was to do it at any time, if they're going to do it in the near future, or else just postpone to like December or November or something, I would do it like next week. Because you got 2x Ancients, it's like the safe place to pull. Pull your shards, it's 2x, it's a good time to pull for everyone, part of the fusion. Then you've got the pull a legendary, get another one, so it's going, ooh, well, like me, I pulled a bunch of shards for the 2x Ancients for the fusion, and I didn't get a legendary out of it. I built up my Mercy timer. It's tempting, isn't it, to pull more shards because I'm close to my Mercy. I might get that double legendary. Very tempting. And then to come out and hit you after that with a guaranteed, like the ultimate FOMO, right? Let's say it's 150 shards. 150 shards for this legendary. If you don't pull them right now, if you don't go buy them and pull them, you're not going to get this legendary. Look how cool they are. Aren't they amazing? Don't you want? I think that's like... It really is the ultimate sales pitch, isn't it? It's like the perfect layout for them. So I think there's a decent chance we could see it. I do. I think there's a decent chance. We'll see what it is. Maybe something Halloween themed. That's possible. We'll see. We'll see. But yeah, for Sacreds, it's Sacreds has been a little bit delayed. Actually, I would say they've really upped in 2022. They've upped the frequency of Sacreds. Withier in February. Then in April, Kaioku. In May was Sissia, actually very close back to back. A gap then, July, Necmo. It would not have been unreasonable. I think it really made sense that we would have seen a Sacred event at the end of September. Now, we haven't seen that. Again, I do think that one perhaps in November now is maybe looking kind of likely. Just again, in terms of like your 2x events, that at the end of October, we're going to have 2x Sacreds. So you could, before that event or after that event, you could see something for Sacred Shards, and especially seeing as this 2x event is part of a fusion. So again, it's a fairly likely time to put something in there, and then it gives a gap, and then I think almost definitely, that's my prediction, is almost definitely we're going to see a bunch of events in December. I think a bunch of events is very likely. One thing as well, you can see just as a quick glance here, the last time that they did an Epic Champion, or below, was back in February with Teresk, who was terrible. Then Godseeker in January. They did lots of epics, Inquisitor and Rector back in December. I would love to see really good epics. I think people would not mind if they redid. They did, where is she? They did Cold Heart back in September. I think if they redid Cold Heart, nobody would complain. That's just a great thing to do. If they redid Geomancer, people would not complain. If you put in champions like, let's say, Ugo, who's an absolute standout, put her in. Skrank is a new Void epic. Doing something for Skrank, AoE HP burn, I think would be kind of nice as well. Very helpful for newer players. So yeah, I really do hope to see some epic stuff. It would help fill in December without being overwhelming. But yeah, there you go. That's what's happening with the guaranteed. So there you go, guys. I'm going to put this up as well in the comment down below on my Discord. I'll link to it so you guys can come see it. But you can sort of see all the info here. And let me know, what do you expect? How does this look? What do you guys think? But yeah, I definitely think that here we are in October. It's been fairly quiet. I do think it's been fairly quiet October in terms of those guaranteed. But I do expect the fusion kicking off soon. I think that guaranteed events soon, but there is good potential for guaranteed events here for the second half of October. I do think it's possible. And then I certainly think that a bunch of guaranteed in December is almost inevitable. Maybe even some events in November to drain shards again, to repurchase them for Christmas. You know how it is, right? And Black Friday, saw all that stuff. Yeah, it's all coming. That's all what's happening. Hopefully this was helpful, letting you know what to save for, what to look out for in terms of your shards. Again, everything that I'm predicting, all the stuff with question marks, anything in the future is a prediction. Bear that in mind. This is not certain. And hopefully I've made it clear throughout the video how predictive this stuff is. Like the 2x events are very consistent, but you know, predicting fusions are fairly consistent, but there's obviously leeway, you know, a week or two, a week either side really. And then the guaranteed and a login is pure speculation, but hopefully building on some precedent and in terms that makes sense from, you know, a marketing and money making perspective for Plarium, which is the #1 thing they consider, sadly. Anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. See you next time. Bye bye.